What's up, Jared? How are we
Yo,
feeling
welcome back.
on? Listen. Good to be back, but I gotta admit, I feel like I missed out on a lot. Obviously, I missed out on a lot here, and it's just so perfect that I'm waking up this morning. And have you ever had one of these moments where you wake up and you've missed the moment, you missed a moment? Like I
Yeah,
wake up.
talking about the slap heard around the world last night.
Yes, I wake up, all my group chats are blowing up. I have a bunch of side texts. Like I'm like, what?
Dude, Twitter was popping for this
What
one
happened?
last night.
And I see it, and then I mean, I've been up since 5 this morning. I've just been scrolling because I'm just like,
You
it's
missed a
unbelievable.
lot.
Look, the takes, the memes, it's all great, but I'm just like, wow, I really missed a
Do
moment.
you
I mean,
think it was real?
absolutely. I think it
Yeah,
was.
I
Like,
think it was real too. I
I
think
definitely think it was real. Couple takeaways, not to get too deep into the slap here. Chris Rock, got to chat. Got to chat. Like that was impressive.
yeah,
The
he took that
composure
one like a
post
man.
slap to just continue, incredible. And I mean, what did he think Will Smith was coming up to do? Just whisper in his ear? Like, I mean, that was
Yeah.
a long walk to come up there, but definitely real. Definitely a real slap.
I analyzed the video in slow-mo. I will say this. It does
An
look
incredible
like
form, incredible slap form, by the
very
way.
good form. Open-handed. First of all, Will Smith played Muhammad Ali in a movie, so I would expect him to understand the dynamic of a punch, even though it wasn't a punch. But I will say this, if you want to throw conspiracy theories out there, when I examine the video, they have all these videos of it in real, like super slow-mo. Chris Rock does kind of pull it a little bit. Like he kind of saw it coming and he kind of leaned over right as the slap was coming. So maybe they discussed it beforehand. I don't know. Maybe conspiracy theorists out there. But I will say this. I posted a chart of the viewership of the Oscars before the slap and after the slap. It was like a Bitcoin chart. All the way up. So there's no business like show business. It probably was real. I'm leaning that way. 60-40, 70-30, it was real. But mission accomplished if the goal was to get more people to watch the Oscars, because they did.
I don't know. The way the producer dump out too the
That's true.
audio.
There's a lot of curse words. There's a lot of curse words said.
There was a lot. There was a lot going on. I'm actually
There was a lot
surprised they
going on.
didn't cut to commercial straight from that. But I mean,
That
interesting.
was something, though.
Chris Rock's damn near 60 years old. He's not about to let anybody slap him in the face at the Oscars. Hold on, the Academy's not letting that happen. There's no way, right? It could. Real.
Drama, man. That was drama. I mean,
Drama.
literally, that you wanna get people to watch the Oscars. You get Chris Rock and Will Smith. Now, here's how I'll know it was staged: if they host together next year.
No, if we get Chris Rock at a red table talk, then that's when
It was like Sports Center afterwards too. I heard in the press conferences they said you're not allowed to ask the winners, aka Will Smith, any questions not about the movie that he won for. They were trying to limit.
That's like team PR saying, "Hey, coach
Yes.
coming in, you can't ask about." It's like,
Yes, exactly.
We're
That's
gonna ask
exactly what it
about
was
it.
like.
Yeah, interesting. Well, let's hope that today's show slaps. We got a lot to get to today. We're going to talk some Elite Eight action, give a little recap of the weekend, because it was a great weekend for you and great weekend for the show. And talk about the Final Four as we get ready for the Blue Bloods. No more Cinderellas to talk about. The big boys are left standing, and it is going to be an absolutely electric Final Four. Talk some NBA with Brian Scalabrine, and finish things off with our ice picks and our plays of the day. So without further ado, let's bet it. And let's just go to Sunday and talk about Sunday's games. And I want to start with, it felt like America's team, the team everyone was backing. Every book, I want to say, had 75% or more of their money and tickets on St. Peter's with the points and money line. So a lot of liability for the books in that regard. But you and Mark Zinno fought the current, went against the grain a little bit, and it paid off in a big way. That win, though, I mean, does that tell you more about North Carolina, or does that make you look at teams like Kentucky and Purdue a little bit differently? Because I think for me, especially the Purdue game, especially a guy like Zach Edey, 2 rebounds in that. I mean, just it makes me look at Purdue like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, soft, I would say. was how Purdue played in that game. So I think Kentucky, they were caught off guard. I think they expected to go into that game, cruise through. It's St. Peter's, 15 seed, no big deal. We'll save our strength for the next round, and they would have had to play Murray State, Battle of Kentucky. That was a classic look-ahead spot for Kentucky. The Murray State game I don't think Murray State had the offense to really, put pressure on right. St. Peter's, and I think that was just a mid-major against the mid-major. Even though Murray State's been fantastic this year, St. Peter's was able to get through. The Sweet 16 game was the one that was the real shocker. That was physically Purdue should have manhandled St. Peter's. They didn't. They played a little soft. Then they panicked in the second half. UNC, numbers-wise, came in. I think they're the best team, playing the best in the tournament. That's what Torvik's analytics say. We talk about Ken Palm's analytics a lot. Bart Torvik, another analytics site that grades teams, based off of their metrics. In the tournament, UNC has the number one grade so far of the tournament games that have been played. So I expected there to be some buyback on UNC. And the line to me, when you're 18-point dogs against Kentucky, 13.5-point dogs against Purdue, then you're 8-point dogs against UNC. And UNC, of those teams I just mentioned, Purdue, Kentucky, UNC playing better than those teams. It was a very easy fade the public spot. Obviously, I'm a Jersey City resident. I made the joke that the mayor was going to stop by and take my Rotary card away for fading St. Peter's again. But there was no way that you could take 8 points there and feel good about the bet. And about 5 minutes into the game, they were down 8, and UNC just really never looked back. That was even the dogs barking here couldn't get St. Peter's across the finish line. So UNC gets home, and they deserve to be in the Final Four.
Yeah, that's when you had to take the train into New York because you had to play that game. You can't play it in New Jersey. You had to go and take some time to make sure you put in that ticket there. So now we get UNC Duke. We'll talk about that later. But I want you fill me in because I took off. I was flying back from Chicago, and at halftime I'm watching on my phone. Miami playing really well, up 6 at half. I'm like, all right. Miami, okay, I can get with Miami. They're playing well. Bad spot for Bill Self in Kansas. Pretty much like not too shocking because of Bill Self's history in these spots, right? And then I land, and Miami just got smoked in the second half. What happened in that game? What did I miss?
You didn't miss much. I think Kansas just kind of woke up. They didn't play great in the first half, and I think in the second half they were able to make some shots. Ochai Agbaji, I thought, was tremendous, and he was a guy that hadn't played well in the tournament up to that point, 18-5-4. So we mentioned a lot of Remy Martin. We mentioned a lot of David McCormick. Those are kind of the all auxiliary players for Kansas in this tournament. Lightfoot's been okay. Braun made a couple of threes. Kansas is very deep. The difference in the second half was their best player, first-round pick, lottery pick, Ochai Agbaji, played like it. He hadn't been playing that well in the tournament. He is a guy that can take Kansas from here to here. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of really good players on Kansas's team. I wouldn't consider them lottery picks. Agbaji is that guy. Mm-hmm. He is a guy that has that mellow-like quality to him that he could just take over a game like for Syracuse in that run back in the early 2000s and just push his team across the finish line, regardless of the fact that there are a lot of other role players on Kansas and their head coach has had issues in the past getting across the finish line. So to me, Abaji's the guy that separated the Jayhawks in that game, and that's why they're in the Final Four.
We got a comment in the chat. So the Glazers look like they literally quit. I mean, the score indicates that. We're going to talk Final Four in a second. I want to switch gears real quick and talk some NBA. Bring in our guy, Brian Scalabrine, as we look forward to the final 2 weeks of the regular season. Scal, what's going on?
No, life's good. Big test for my Boston Celtics that got some stuff done this weekend, and I finally believe that people are now starting to take notice that the Celtics aren't just like pretender regular season team.
I was gonna say, like, is this a Celtics team that maybe we should be talking about with the Brooklyns, the Phillies, the Milwaukees? Like, are the Celtics there? I mean, because I feel like they've been getting disrespected all season.
Yeah, because when a team starts out slow, you like make your preconceived notions on how a team is. Like we're in our world, there's so much sports going on that we're always looking for, what about this team? And we want to check these boxes. There's been a lot of uncertainty surrounding the Brooklyn Nets. Okay, what's going on with Kyrie? What's going on with Harden? Now it's Ben Simmons being there, right? So when it comes to the Celtics, all they did, they made like a few tweaks. They got healthy, and all of a sudden now they're just playing at a whole new level. So when you ask that question, I think they're better than Philly. I think they're better than Brooklyn if Ben Simmons doesn't play. I don't know what's going on there, but I do think if Ben Simmons doesn't play, I don't think Brooklyn, as good as Kevin Durant is, and I believe in Kevin Durant, I don't think they're in that conversation. But I keep going back to the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks are so big, so strong, so physical. I feel like that's going to be a tough series. But the Celtics have home court advantage. Obviously, that means a lot. If you can be on your home court for Game 7, if it gets to that point, that's a huge advantage. So I think they're in the conversation with the Bucks and maybe the Heat, even though the Heat have been like ever since that blow up on the bench, they've really been struggling. Like they look like a fraction of the team they were before. But I do think that the Celtics are right there with the Milwaukee Bucks as favorites to go to the NBA Finals out of the East.
Yeah, the East odds right now reflect that. And I'll be honest, Scal, when I'm looking at the odds right now, Boston is on that top line. Milwaukee, this is at FanDuel. Milwaukee and Brooklyn are 3-1 to win the East. Boston's plus 350. They're ahead of the Sixers right now to win the Eastern Conference. And that probably – does that surprise you at all, even though Philly's got the better record and, you know, there's a decent chance that they've got home court? Actually, half a game separation between all four of those teams at the top. Is home court that big for the Celtics? If they get the number one seed in the East, would they be your pick to win it all, or at least to win the Eastern Conference?
So it comes down to like matchups, right? Once again, and when do they play the Milwaukee Bucks? I'm not sure. Like, you know, I'm as big of a Celtic fan as you can get, right? But I just worry about the physicality of the Bucks. So I don't know if like home court advantage is great, but physicality in the playoffs and just like I'll name the guys, right? We'll start out with Lopez, Bobby Portis, Serge Ibaka, Giannis. Like, look at those guys. Think of how big they are. And that's Al Horford, Robert Williams, Grant Williams, Daniel Tice. It's just there's a physical nature to that. Now, I think Tatum is the best player, the best wing player in that group. Like, I think he's better than Chris Middleton. You know, Marcus Smart and Holiday, you can see them exiting each other out. But I just worry about the physicality. So does home court matter? Yeah. Like if you're going to play the Bucks, you want to have home court advantage, but it's just really hard for me just to sit here and stamp the Celtics as the favorite to go to the finals if they match up with the Bucks. But I think there's other teams out there that can beat, like Miami. If they get their stuff together, they can beat the Bucks. Brooklyn can beat the Bucks. So it comes down to matchups and who plays who. But if you're asking me, I think they crush Philly. I think they would beat Philly in 5 or 6 games. That's how much confidence I have on the Celtics, and I'm not sold on the way James Harden has looked since the trade.
Yeah, I want to stay in the East though, really quick, and talk about a team that looked really good in the first half and has kind of tapered off a little bit, and that's the Cleveland Cavaliers. 6-12 in their last 18 games. Kind of losing steam, I believe, in the 7th spot right now. Is this just a young team that's kind of losing steam? Are they missing Jared Allen?
Yeah.
Just kind of how do you see the Celtics look?
Can I go nerd real quick on the basketball side?
Please. I mean, they're definitely missing Jared Allen.
All right, yeah. So both those guys, Allen and Mobley, are versatile, right? So think about it this way: you're coming off a screen, you're a high dynamic guard, and you got Mobley on the perimeter. He switches out on you, no problem. Like a guard, probably in his own way, could take Mobley off the bounce. The difference is, and you can vice versa as well, when they crack Mobley off the bounce, you got Jared Allen waiting for you at the rim. Both these guys defend the rim at a high level and they don't foul. So it becomes very different when you only have one of them. And you can go the same thing. Like if Mobley's out and you got Jared Allen on the perimeter and you crack him off the bounce, you're not dealing with a shot blocker at the rim. So the combination of both those guys is a big deal. Like Darius Garland's a fine defensive player, but why the Cleveland Cavaliers are so good is because both those guys defend the rim at a high level and they don't foul. But if you just have one, it's a lot of pressure on one or the other. And I think they're both really good. But being the one guy on your own, defending the rim and having to do everything defensively, even to the fact that if you go up to block a shot and you miss, there's an offensive rebound that they're subjected to. So having both those guys out there, they're a problem. But they've had injuries throughout the year. In the NBA, the margins are really thin. If I got to play, let's say I'm out there and I'm a rotational player, right? If I got to play like 5% better than I normally do outside of my comfort zone, do a little bit more, it could be disastrous, right? And that's for a lot of guys. And it can happen for maybe a game, 2 games, but over the course of 10 games, if you're asked to do too much, your team can really take a couple steps backwards. So with all the injuries they have, like the Ricky Rubio injury, and now you got the Jared Allen injury, yeah, that's going to affect you. Darius Garland has been affected, throughout the year since right before All-Star break with like this back issue, right? Like he gets hurt, he gets back into the lineup. He hasn't been 100%. A lot of it has to do with like they need him out there and he has to play through injuries. So I think you add all that up and it puts them in a situation where you start to see them falling.
That being said, I'm on Darius Garland tonight over 3.5 rebounds. I'll give you my cap scal. You tell me if I'm crazy or not. So he's projected for over 4. He's averaging 3.5 this season, but he's trending up in the right direction. And I think it's because Jared Allen being out, there's a little bit more bulk rebounding going on with this Cavs team. So they're playing the Magic tonight. They're a pretty big favorite. Total's relatively low in the 2 teens, which means we should get a lot of misses. But to me, the Magic, who are allowing the 6th most rebounds per game over their last 10, that's really the part of this cap that I like. Orlando doesn't have that bulk. And again, Darius being part of this now team rebounding effort without Jared Allen, I do think 4 rebounds, a pretty low number for a guy that's going to be on the floor a lot tonight.
All right. So I'm just going to tell you my opinion. And
give it to me straight.
Like guards usually get high rebound numbers when teams shoot threes, and Orlando's not a big 3-point shooting team. Okay. Right? They like to drive to the basket. So if Orlando took 33s in this game, you could chalk that up for sure. But the only thing I'd be worried about is Orlando. They post up, they take mid-range jump shots, they go to the basket. Those aren't the kind of rebounds usually that guards get. So listen, you're right. 3.5, 4 rebounds, that's not a lot. You're going to be sweating this one out in the fourth quarter, though.
Scal, I'm looking at the rundown right now, and you and I are both on the Denver Nuggets tonight.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this game, and I see a couple things. First of all, Nuggets 8-2 against the spread in their last 10 road games. I like that. But the big thing that I like the rest advantage. They got an extra day of rest, which might not mean much to the average person until you peel back the curtain a little bit. The Hornets 1-12 this season on the second half of a back-to-back with no rest. So they have not been great in this spot. And I think they have a big advantage inside. And Nikola Jokic, I mean, he can, what can't he do? So yeah. I just see this being a great spot for the Nuggets to go to Charlotte and steal one tonight. And it's a short number.
And Charlotte's coming off of
big win yesterday too.
Understand the emotional energy. Now Charlotte has been playing better lately, and I think that's the reason why the line is reflecting this. But Charlotte's coming off an emotional win. Remember, the last time they played Brooklyn, Kyrie embarrassed them, had 50 points on them, and it was embarrassing the way that they played, right? So there's an emotional charge. We're not going to let that happen. They did great in that game. It's a big win for them. Inevitably, if you ride the emotion and you have a high point, there's a low point as well. And this was not an easy game for Charlotte. The score was 106 to 105 at one point. Brooklyn was up, and they had to close the game strong to win that game. So I think there's a little bit of an emotional letdown flying back, and Denver needs this win. This isn't a game that Denver's just like, all right, well, we're tanking and we don't really care where we're at. No, they're trying to stay above the playing game and above Minnesota. So I'm with you. I mean, I think Denver's going to win this game, and it could be a 1-point game, a 2-point game, but I got Denver winning, 7-8 on this one. So
3 points right now on FanDuel. So one possession. Yeah. I mean, we're still inside the area where if it's close, we get the fouls. I mean, they could come home for us.
Yeah, I think this is one of my locks of the day. I like Denver in this game. It just, unless something crazy happens or somebody sits out, Denver should, by all accounts, take care of business down in Charlotte.
Yeah, I don't think Denver's going to be sitting anybody in this spot they're in right now, with the race so close. What else are you on tonight?
Yeah, the other one I'm on is Indiana. Indiana got embarrassed the other day against Toronto. Rick Carlisle, they've got pride. They're getting 7.5. Atlanta's on a back-to-back. That's a lot to cover on a back-to-back. And I know Atlanta needs this game, but when I watch Atlanta, when they're playing with a ton of energy and they're flying all over the place, I think they're great. They're a great basketball team, but it's so few and far between. That's kind of why they went on that run in the playoffs. So there's no back-to-backs or any of that stuff. So Atlanta right now, they need to win, but there might be at a point now where they're looking up and saying, no matter what, we're going to be the 10 seed. We're going to have to play in the play-in game. And 7.5 points Indiana is getting, and Indiana got embarrassed. They're back home. And I feel like Indiana's going to play an up-tempo style. It's going to be a high-scoring game, so if you like overs, you can look at that. But I do think that today that Indiana probably will lose, but I don't think they're going to lose by 8.
Yeah,
Indiana's tough. So the last 5 for Indiana have all stayed under. They've lost 3 straight against the spread. You mentioned that game against the Raptors. They lost by 40. Meanwhile, the Hawks coming off that win over the Warriors, very impressive. Traded back and forth, wins against the spread, losses against the spread, wins against the spread. So they're coming off a win. That means they're due for a setback. That's what basically we're saying here. And I could see it. Even though the market, I would maybe wait here though, Scal, because the market's up to 8.5 here on.
Feels like the dog has something to say about this.
Yeah, well, I have a sick dog this morning. He hasn't been feeling well.
Listen, tell the dog.
Dogs are barking.
I tell the dog I understand Trae Young and everything like that. I get it. Like the dog loves Trae Young. Who doesn't love Trae Young? Like my son loves Trae Young too. But it's just like Indiana's like tough to blow out a couple times. Rick Carlisle has pride in. And these guys are going to play a lot. They're going to play tough. I'm a big fan of Atlanta as a team, but 8. You guys said it's up to 8. It might go up. I like that one.
Right now, I'm seeing 8, and it looks like 8.5. I see an 8.5 at circa. It's 8 across the rest of the board. So I think the market likes Atlanta tonight. But listen, the market's wrong all the time.
Yeah.
So.
Let me ask you guys. Do you guys find that the market overreacts? Like for instance,
100%.
Atlanta beats the Warriors and Indiana gets blasted by Toronto.
Well,
like in my world, like when Golden State, I think I picked it on this show. When Golden State lost to Orlando, I turned around and took Golden State. Like there's NBA players. I'm telling you, it's the opposite of what people think. NBA players, they can handle failure at the highest level, back against the wall. They're great with this. It's success that NBA players have a hard time with. When they start winning, like they start thinking it's more about me than us, you know. And when the success and driving forward after you get a couple good wins, that's where you sort of let go of the rope. It's like complacency is like human nature, and that's why, like I think that the market sometimes looks at it the other way.
It's been that way. I feel like with injury news. I think, Jared, we talked about this on the show. It's like you got to almost fade the news. When you hear the news, like tonight, perfect example, we're talking about the Warriors. Potentially no Draymond Green, no Steph Curry tonight, no Ja Morant. And the Warriors catching 11 points?
Yeah.
11 points in Memphis? I mean, come on. You know, like this is a good Memphis.
They have a saying in finance, you buy the rumor, you sell the news. Like when you're hearing that something's going to happen, the stock price goes up. And then it actually happens, and then it tanks. Because it's always overblown, and the market I've always been a proponent of the financial markets and the sports markets are like they're treated like one and the same. And so you hear whatever we hear, we go bet it. For example, the NFL futures, we hear all these player moves, quarterbacks. All of a sudden, Tua goes from 100-1 to 40-1 to win the MVP because they get Tyreek Hill. Like, talk about an overreaction. Like, it's the same thing, Scal. Like, we hear things, we see things, we bet it. It's our natural instinct to bet it, and then the market moves, and then the value's on the other side. You have to be contrarian to win in gambling long term. I've convinced at that.
All right.
Chat wants to know, Scal, what are your thoughts on the Celtics tonight?
Yeah, today's going to be tough, man. I don't want to get into – like why players are playing or not playing up in Toronto. And, you know, it's just it's a dicey subject. And I want to, at all costs, I pray to the Lord above, do not play Toronto in the first round. Like whatever you have to do not play Toronto in the first round because it's a dangerous road to go down in the playoffs. And I think you guys know what I mean. So yeah. I'm not optimistic, but give these guys a lot of credit. Like whoever Ime has been throwing in there, they've been rolling a certain way, but this is going to be an interesting one. Talk about rumors and news and all that stuff. This has the least to do with basketball. I saw this and I'm like, I'm staying away from this one all the way because I don't know how the day is going to unfold with all this stuff going on with the vaccines and mandates in Toronto and where they're at and where the Celtics are at, who's going, who's not going. I just, when it comes to that stuff, I hate trying to guess on that stuff, but I think Toronto really needs this win. I think they want to get up. and get some distance between Cleveland. I think they want to steer clear of that play-in tournament. So it feels like one team really, really wants to win this game, but don't count out the bench guys of the Celtics.
Yeah, and to me, when you get situations like that, Scal, information is our lifeblood. And we have a lack of information there, lack of clarity. And it's okay. Bunch of games on the board tonight. It's okay to pass. Before we get you out of here, MVP race heating up. And Jokic has, an interesting game tonight. We mentioned that game in Charlotte. I think he's still an underdog right now to win the MVP. Do you think when they're voting for the MVP, there's a little bit of bias against the defending champion? It's harder to repeat because you have to one-up what you did last year. So if that's the case, Embiid right now at minus 195, which basically is implying about a 66.66667% chance that he wins it. Do you think that's right? In 2 out of 3 scenarios in your head, is Joel Embiid the MVP? Or is it more like 1 out of 2 coin flip? If that's the case, Jokic may be some value.
I think they call it voter fatigue here in the NBA, right? I think there is some voter fatigue with this. But here's what really gets me, right? Do you know actually last year there was no question. Like Jokic was the MVP. It should have been unanimous. He played every game. He was amazing. His team, the guys he missed, like Murray gets hurt, he goes to another level, all that stuff, right? Yet, and Embiid missed I think it was 19 out of 72 games. And some people voted Embiid the MVP of the league. So if you just go by that logic, they're just people are just salivating to votes for somebody else, whether it's because he's a European guy or because he looks heavy, they don't like him, whatever the reason is, it's hard for the media to I think stamp Jokic on this one. So I do think Embiid's going to win it. And I don't when it comes to the emotion of stuff, I don't like betting on the MVP at this late in the game, because I do feel like people are just here's one, and I know it was in the rundown. Who in their right mind would vote LeBron James 1 through 5 in the MVP race? It's a joke. But I have a bet with my co-host in the morning. He thinks he'll get 3 votes or more. I think you have to be LeBron.
He's 400. He's plus 4,900 right now. He's 490 to 1.
Forget the
490 to 1.
There's 2 conversations.
You're saying he can get 3 votes, or he won't.
He shouldn't even be in.
But what should doesn't matter, because we know how voting works. You're saying there are 3 people out there that will vote LeBron.
I think I don't know why the betting markets don't open up to write down your top 5 people. Can you bet that these 5 would be in the top 5?
Yeah,
I think that'd be a better bet than I think Embiid's gonna win it. It's whatever. But no, or
who's gonna be the runner up?
Yeah, well, it'd probably be Jokic and Giannis, and then it gets kind of interesting. I think Tatum and Luka. A lot of other people think Ja, but Ja's going to end up missing
I think Ja's going to probably fall out.
What about Devin Booker, Chris Paul being out? Yeah. So there's a lot. The much more interesting.
You can make a case for Booker with Paul being out.
Sure,
I can build a case for Devin Booker.
Conversation is top 5. Voting, betting on top 5. That's a much more interesting conversation.
Well, Scout, we got to pitch that to FanDuel, bud.
You're just giving away free ideas here.
There you go. I take it.
Keep that under wraps. We'll go make a pitch to one of the books. We've got great relationships with them. Maybe we'll make a little cheddar cheese on the side there.
Get that done, because I think a lot of people would put right now, you wouldn't put money on Tatum, but would you put money on Tatum to win?
I'd put money on Tatum top 5.
Would you put him to finish 5th?
Well, they do that in golf. We talked about the golf betting a lot. You came on that one time. A lot of times we bet top 20. Not necessarily a guy to win the tournament, but a guy to be in the conversation. That would be an intriguing bet. Another thing I want to see numbers on, and I want to get your thoughts on this, because I'm sure you've been watching a lot of the March Madness. Block chart.
I watched 0.
0 the March Madness? All right. Well, this is an issue in the NBA too. The block charges have become so just polarizing. I would like to see numbers on over-under blocks charges called in a game. Would that be an interesting bet for you on the side?
No. I hate betting on people's opinion. I really do. I know people would think sports are, a judgment call of referees and stuff like that. I will say this, from a guy who's played back in the day versus now, these guys are twice as athletic, maybe more. that block charge circle, that thing needs to be spread out another 2 feet because. Like right now, it used to be like, well, you couldn't jump from this far and lay it up. Man, dudes are like jumping from the free throw line and laying it up. Guys in college are sick, right? So what's player control? Like if they move that line out, it would be a much cleaner game. And
would that affect the totals a little bit? You think it would be probably a lower scoring game?
No,
because there'd be more blocks and fewer charges, or more charges and fewer blocks going the other way. Turnovers.
My opinion on in college, I think officials love. Like,
it's the ref show.
You see the naked gun, Leslie Nielsen?
Yeah, it's the.
You guys have seen this one.
Oh yeah, we get the little. Well, we get the whistle. We get the whistle, and then just the throwing. Yeah.
Yo, we're gonna turn that into a GIF. We're gonna.
They don't do that in the NBA. You know what I mean? I think in college, they just I gotta like you know how
I call it the ref show.
Yeah,
the best is the pause after the initial whistle. So it's the whistle, and then you're waiting to see the reaction, and then it's the motion. Yeah.
Yeah. So
there was a great movie, Leslie Nielsen in Naked Gun, where he like poses as an umpire and he does like the strike three call.
Yeah.
And he's doing like a dance. Like they get into it, man. They want to be part of the game.
Yeah. So I wish. If the only people who would be against it are college referees if we move that block charge circle out, right? It's like it's insufferable to me to see that kind of stuff. Like the NBA, they don't do that. They used to do it back in the day, but college, some of the calls, man, that's why I can't watch, man. It's like glorified AAU to me.
It's tough. Yeah, I'll be honest, the games this weekend, you didn't miss much. They all were blowouts, and the calls, the refs. Yeah. I mean, it's a tough watch. It's definitely
real quick. I know you guys got a million things to do, but Chet Holmgren, just give me a thumbs up or thumbs down as an NBA prospect. Down.
I mean, listen, he's going to be a stretch 5 somewhere, but I don't think
you can't put him out on a floor.
The number one pick, top 10 guy.
Yeah. You can't put him out there for 3 years, right? Like he doesn't have the body to be out there.
He needs the body up. He looks like baby Giannis, right? He's a little baby Giannis.
Yeah, no. I think he has game.
He has game. But he's got to bulk up.
Yeah, you gotta be able to see.
Availability
is the best ability, and I don't know, man, but we'll see.
I just saw him get bullied around all tournament by.
Yeah, he got bullied around by Arkansas. Pretty bad.
Arkansas definitely bullied him. I mean, Timmy, I think, gained a little bit of attention that maybe he didn't have before.
Timmy's got a little bit of your game in him there, Scal. I can see
he's better inside than I
was. He's crafty.
He's crafty. He's crafty. He's got that AAU YMCA ball game where he can
think he's traveling, but no. That pivot foot stays down. He can pivot with the best of them.
Yeah, he's good.
But Chet Holmgren down on him.
All right.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think I'm like down, but let's just leave it at this. After the tournament, I'm a lot more down than I was before the tournament.
Sure. Yeah. NBA, let me just say this. NBA scouts and GMs that I talk to love him. So we'll see.
I mean, he's going to be a star in the league because he can do everything.
He's a 7-footer that has skills. I mean,
exactly. But he's got to bulk up. Like, I don't think he reminds me of a little bit of Porzingis. Maybe not as tall, but a little bit of Porzingis in him. He's going to – and listen, Porzingis is very polarizing, you know? Like he can step out, shoot the three, and he can dunk it on the best of them, but he gets bullied at times.
But if he's Porzingis, that's not bad.
That's true. And he's going to be a top 5, top 10 pick, no doubt. Yeah. I mean, I think our opinion of him, it doesn't really is going to not affect his status. But I don't know if he's going to be one of those like transcendent, like a Giannis.
Sure.
Like I don't think he's going to be on that level unless he bulks up and turns into a physical freak. Because right now it's more skill, not as much physicality, I think. And you got to have both in the league. Like you can't be a scrawny wimp and play center in the league. Like you got to have
like 18. Is he 18, 19? I mean, he's young.
Yeah, he's young. That's why the jury's totally out on him.
I just think you can't get hurt. That's it. That's my whole thing. His game is good enough. He just like it's the durability of it. That's like the thing.
But the thing is,
when Zach Collins came in the league, no doubt he had game. He's always hurt, and if you don't have the body to sustain it.
But here's the thing: outside of Giannis, how many of those guys have we seen? You know, the 7-footers that are length. How many of those guys have we seen? Like, oh, they just got to put on weight. They can't put on weight. That's the problem.
I wish I had that problem.
Durant has been fine.
Durant's been good.
Yeah, so I mean, but he's really skinny, but we'll see.
Yeah, but I don't to me, I don't put Holmgren in that level of shooting prowess and just like Durant's an assassin.
Sure.
I don't know if Chet has that killer instinct mindset. Maybe he does. Maybe he'll grow into
No
it.
one does, man. Durant's
No,
like,
yeah.
he's a one-on-one.
He's
Man.
on another level.
Yeah. I mean,
KD's a stone cold assassin, bro. He's a freaking assassin.
absolutely. Scal, always a pleasure. Thank you for
Great stuff,
taking
bud.
time to be with us this morning.
All right. See you guys.
Great
Have a good one.
combos, man. Scal keeping it real this morning.
Always brings it.
Love
Always
it.
brings it.
Love it.
All right, let's touch on Final Four predictions real quick before we move on to NHL here, because I'm looking at the Final Four and I'm telling you what, I really would have liked to back Jay Wright and Villanova and take those 4.5 points. But that Justin Moore news with the torn Achilles, an absolute killer for me, because I mean, as you know, if you've been watching Villanova at all, they don't play a bunch of guys. They play 6 guys, 7 guys. So, and Justin Moore being one of their better players, their I think second leading scorer, one of their shooters. That's a big loss for them, and I'm not sure how they replace him. But obviously, odds makers know that that's factored into this number here. But for me, I think I need a little bit more time before I figure out how I'm going to play that. But what are your thoughts on that game specifically before we move on to the UNC Duke game?
Yeah, that's a good one. So big number move there. Not big number move, but anytime you get number opens 3.5, jumps up to 4.5 immediately at this stage of the tournament in the Final Four for the numbers to move that fast, pretty significant. And obviously everyone's going to be backing Kansas in this game. And everyone's going to be skeptical of Nova being able to survive and, play deep enough and have the horses to be able to contend with a very deep and very talented Jayhawks team. I think if I had to pick a side here, the fact that it didn't go to 5 or 6 or the number opened a lot bigger than it did makes me think that the odds makers believe Nova has a chance to at least keep this close.
Well, they believe in Jay Wright. It's Jay Wright over Bill Self. That's what it is.
Yes, 100%. That is the reason why I think Kansas, I would not lay points with Kansas. Do I think Kansas wins the game? Yes. If you played the game in a vacuum 100 times, I think Kansas wins more than they lose. Can they cover 5? It's 4.5, so you got to win by 5. I wouldn't make that bet. Here's the bet I would make, and I've already made it, the under. Kansas has the best defense against 2-point shots in the entire tournament, in the entire field of 68. They have the best 2-point percentage defense. Also, Nova, I mean, you watched that game against Houston. They're going to play even slower against Kansas because the only way that Nova can win this game is if they turn it into an ugly rock
defense slugfest.
That's it. And 133.5, which is where the number is hovering now. Maybe there's a 133, 132.5 out there. It's kind of hovering between those two numbers. To me, that's a relatively high total considering Nova's pace and the fact that Kansas is playing their best defense of the tournament.
And the kind of pace that you're anticipating Nova needs to play. I agree.
Yes.
I agree with you.
So pace and also availability really I already locked 1.5 units on the full game under, and I added another unit on the first half under, which, by the way, first half unders are 11-1 since the Smith team. To me, that's the trend. That's the way we play the Nova-Kansas game. I respect Jay Wright. I respect Villanova. I respect them enough to where I'm not going to lay points with Kansas because I already made that mistake against Houston, and I misread that game. Nova was not necessarily the better team, but that was a good spot for Nova to take points. I would be willing to bet that there's going to be some really smart contrarian bettors that I trust that are going to take the points with Nova in this game, but I think the better play here is the under.
I think that if you're going to take Nova, I think that you're going to be able to get a better number as we get closer.
Agreed. I would wait.
I think there's going to be more money coming in.
100%. Money will be on Kansas here. The early money's all on Kansas.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, the other game. I mean, how great is this? I mean, this is the stars have aligned and given us Duke UNC for a third time, and for the first time ever first time ever in the NCAA tournament, and this one a chance to move on and play for a championship for Coach K. Obviously, another shot at UNC after they ruined his final home game, and I'm not sure how I see this one playing out because this is another tough game to look at. But what I do have for you, and Jared, you just tell me what your thoughts are on this, because these 4.5 points, they're really tricky. I'm going to have to go through and really do a deep dive this week before I can really get into it. I like the way UNC's playing. UNC's been playing. They've been playing their best basketball this tournament. But Duke has also been playing really well on both ends of the floor. They do not look like the team that struggled with the Virginia Techs and the Miamis and throughout the season. So I'm interested. But what are your thoughts on a Kansas Duke moneyline parlay plus 124 right now on FanDuel?
I like that. I think if I were to bet this game straight up, especially if the early splits are coming in on Duke, which I actually just got an update from MGM while we were in show. Let me see if I can pull it up right now. It does look like Duke actually, wow, how about this? Early handle 60-40 UNC as the public dog.
Honestly, that makes me feel even better. Yeah,
I think that is a little surprising to me, because I put in the rundown, I would wait to bet UNC because I would imagine that the public would want to bet Duke and Coach K in that final game, which would push the exposure towards Duke, which would maybe give you a 5 or even a 5.5 once we get to Saturday night. But it looks like, again, very early. It's only Monday morning, and the lines have only been out for about 12 hours. It looks like the early action at MGM is coming in on UNC, on the money line and on the spread. So maybe we don't get a 5. Maybe it goes down to 4. And if that's the case, yeah, I would say Duke would be the right play. So maybe if you like Duke, maybe you should wait. We'll see. We're gonna do multiple updates throughout the week. Again, this is
there's so many different ways to attack this. This is just a first glance, just looking at this, and
I would say Duke and Kansas would be my championship game prediction if I had to make it today on Monday.
I think so too. And plus 124 is not bad.
No, that's a great and that's a very conservative way to play it, where you get a slice of both games and you feel like you got some skin in the game and you're not risking a lot.
Low exposure, in some pretty
very
tough
reasonable
spots.
bet. Very reasonable.
Scal brought up Chet Holmgren a little bit. A guy I want to talk about here, Paolo Banchero. I mean, he has just showed off his full arsenal of skills. Like that dude's got every tool in the toolbox. I mean, the way he's kind of put Duke on his back and has played. I mean, this is kind of what I feel like. This is what he's capable of. This is who he is. I mean, really, really impressed with him this tournament.
Lottery pick, no doubt.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And
I think you could make a case for. You could make a case for number 1 overall. Like that's how good he's built. I don't think there's a clear-cut number 1.
Yeah. I think when you look at what Duke is, the fact that they've been able to raise their intensity level speaks to what's happening between the ears, not only of the players, but also of the coaching staff. The amount of pressure that they've been under the last 2 weeks, I mean, we don't know because we're on the outside, but these are teenagers. You know, Paulo's 18 years old? To be able to raise his game, because think about the tournament games that we've seen, and I know Jack wants us to move to NHL. Let me just make this final point, and then we can. A lot of the tournament games that we've watched, don't get me wrong, I don't want to take anything away from the victors, but there's been a lot of, bed shitting, if you catch my drift. There haven't been a lot of close games. A lot of times one team, it's an avalanche at the end of a game, and one team collapses and the other team sprints through the finish. It would have been so easy for Duke just to go in the tank in a lot of these. Texas Tech, that game was on the knife's edge late. You can make the same case about some of their earlier games in the tournament, and for them just to buckle under the pressure. But they've raised and elevated their game. That speaks a lot to the intestinal fortitude of these players, because I can't imagine the amount of media attention, pressure, outside, forces impacting what's going on, distractions with Coach K, and they've raised their game throughout the tournament. Impressive stuff. Really impressive.
That's the team everyone wants to be, because everyone wants to be the team that ends Coach K's career, right? So definitely going to be talking much more about that game throughout the week. Let's move on to the ice. I'm looking at the rundown, and you are committing what I would consider a cardinal sin, and you're going against our Canes tonight. So tell me why you are backing the Caps and going against the Canes. What's going on?
I was thinking about making this a pod, but I know you'd be so mad. You might just walk off.
No. It's not the Ice Cats. The Ice Cats, we can't.
Yeah, the Ice Cats, you would be in protest. You would be like, can't finish the show anymore. So I think this is a good spot for the Caps. So the Canes are coming off of a really tough loss to the Blues, and they're 2-3-2 in their last 7 games. Caps are hot, sprinting to the finish, 9-2-1 this month, averaging nearly 4 goals per game. And they need to continue to win because they're in the wild card standings, but they could still move up and get into that 2-3 game in their division. So I think the Caps playing with some motivation. The Canes standings are pretty set. And the really reason why I pushed across here, this is the front end of a back-to-back for Carolina. They are in Tampa tomorrow.
We'll look ahead. We'll look ahead.
Back-to-back. Yes, very tough back-to-back. Caps on the road tonight. Then they get on a plane and they have to fly to Tampa tomorrow. And the Caps have owned this series. They've won 6 straight over the Canes dating back to last season. We'll see who's in net tonight for Carolina. I'm assuming because it's Tampa tomorrow, they'll save Frederik Andersen, who's been one of the best netminders in hockey this year, which means it might be, again, the back-to-back situation in hockey make it hard to predict who's going to be in net. We won't know until game time. But I would predict it's Antti Ranta in net tonight, who is the backup of the 2 goalies in Carolina. He's playing well this season, but he's still not as good as Frederik Andersen in terms of numbers and analytics. I think it's going to be Vanacek in net for the Caps. He had 36 saves against the Canes a few weeks ago in a 4-0 win. So I think the trends are kind of pushing me towards Washington here. And again, it's a home dog against a very good Carolina team. And the reason why they're a dog is because Carolina's numbers have been tremendous this year. But I'll take a nibble on the Caps tonight as a home dog.
I like that. You got a couple other leans in there. I'm off the ice tonight. No ice tonight. This is not a great slate.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'll give one other lean if you want an underdog spot tonight. The Canucks are in St. Louis, and I just mentioned that St. Louis is coming off of that really, really bad loss to the Canes, 7-2. It was a blowout. And the reason why I would take the Canucks as a short dog,
Canes won that. Canes won
7-2.
Yeah.
It was a blowout. And the reason why I would take the Canucks as a short dog tonight is because Thatcher Demko had 35 saves in his last game, and he's been coming on really strong of late. Not a huge look there, but I would lean to the Nucks at home. I would also lean to the over in the Yotes and the Oilers game. The Oilers just played a 9-5 game on Saturday. Holy moly. 14 goals in a game against Calgary. And Arizona's on the second of a back-to-back, so I would imagine some tired legs there. We might get the backup netminder for the Yotes. So I'm not betting either of those games, by the way, Nucks or Yotes Oilers, but I would lean Nucks. I would lean over 6.5 in the Yotes and the Oilers.
I like it. All right, let's finish things off. Plays of the day. We got any 3-star plays on the site. Great weekend, by the way. Great call. Who gave out Scheffler?
Scheffler. Ricky Diamond. Yeah, Ricky Diamond, big-time shout-out. Ricky Diamond is becoming a golf and tennis maven. If you like betting golf, if you like betting tennis, hit up Ricky Diamond's picks.
Was that 12-1? What he gave it on?
20-1.
20-1.
Yeah, that was a pretty penny right there.
Hit.
We do have a hockey play on the site tonight, and it's kind of in correlation to what I just mentioned with that Oilers Yotes game. I will lead you to Pickswise.com to check it out. Mark Lammy, the capper, responsible for a 3-star play. It's a prop bet between the Oilers and the Yotes. It's a very familiar name. You'll certainly recognize it once you see it, but I will direct you to Pickswise.com for the 3-star play on the Yotes and the Oilers.
Love it. All right, you've been rolling with your plays of the day.
I've been okay.
Are you on a little streak? Are you on a streak right now? Are you streaking?
I mean, let's look at the streaks right now. I've won 3 out of 4. It's not
3
bad.
out of 4. Okay.
Not bad. So we'll try to make it 4 out of 5 tonight. I am going with the under. It's going to be a sweat. Under sweats. I'm going to be taking a page out of AG's book tonight. I'm going to be sweating it off with the under. Kraken and King. So these two teams just played on Saturday, and it was 4-2. And I love playing unders in the second of those back-to-backs that hockey. It doesn't happen a lot in hockey, but it does happen sometimes where you play one team twice in a row. And I like the vibe of, they just played each other. They're familiar with each other. Things are a little bit slower, and I could see this one trending under. The Kings are a good defensive team, 7th fewest goals allowed in the league this year, under 3 per game. And the Kraken, worst team in the NHL, I would say, maybe besides the Coyotes, 5th fewest goals scored, and they've scored just 3 goals in 2 games against the Kings this year. And I think LA is going to have to continue that defensive intensity because they're 4 points ahead of the Oilers for the second spot in the Pacific Division. And the second, third matchup, those divisional standings, the second place team gets home ice, 4 out of 7. That's huge. There's still 15, 20 games left in the season, so there's still time for these standings to flip-flop a little bit. But the Kings are also 7 points behind the Flames for first place in the division. So LA is kind of seeing, some momentum play in their favor, and I could see them continuing to play strong down the stretch. It'll be Cal Peterson in net tonight, really good at home, 2.32 goals against, and I could see this one being 3-1 Kings and it being a lower scoring game. So we'll go under 6 in the Kraken and the Kings for play of the day tonight.
A competitive, tight game. It's
there you go.
All right, I'm going to the NBA. My guy, Jakob Poeltl, tonight, over 8.5 rebounds. We're going to that Spurs-Rockets game. He's gone over that number in 3 straight games in 6 of his last 8, averaging 9 rebounds this season, over 9 rebounds this month. Actually, I think 2 months straight he's averaged over 9 rebounds. So he could easily get over this number. 10 rebounds in the one game against the Rockets earlier this season. And this is a Houston team that's not a great rebounding team, bottom third of the league in opponent rebounds. So I think this is a good spot for our guy, Jakob Poeltl, over 8.5
Great
rebounds.
name pronunciation, by the way.
No, I'm not going to lie to you. Had to look it up.
No, you nailed it.
Had to look it up because Jakob, I was aware of. But the last name was tricky.
It's funky.
The last name's tricky because it's like there's an R in there, but it's not. But, I just look. The Spurs
it's kind of like Turtle.
They say Poeltl, so I go with Jakob Poeltl.
Listen, you nailed it. it. I think he played at Utah. He was a pretty good player in college, from what I remember.
He's a pretty good player. He's an underrated player, very underrated player, and I think it's just probably because the Spurs aren't that great as a team this year. But sneaky good player, better than people think. Very underrated.
Love it.
All right, let's get out of here. No more comments in the chat. I don't think nothing pressing to get to. We will be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Good luck on all your plays tonight. We'll be back tomorrow.